Then, John heard the worst sound any human being had ever heard, a sneeze, coming from 6 inches behind his head. For a second, John remembered an episode of Mythbusters he had seen before being arrested, before coming here, where they tested to see if someone could sneeze with his eyes open. And yep, he never saw the end. There was a sick, wet thud, a horrible ripping sound, and a scream that ended too quickly. John didn't even have a chance to turn around and look over. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-173. SCP-173 is animate and extremely hostile. It moved to the SCP Foundation in 1993, but its origins are unknown to this day. SCP-173 is constructed from concrete and rebar with traces of Krylon brand spray paint. SCP-173 is completely still while in an organism's field of vision, only moving when it isn't being watched, even if the observer simply blinks or barely looks off the object. Just when the observer blinks, SCP-173 will make a grindstone sound and move forward a short distance quickly. Despite the fact that it is a statue, SCP-173 can move fast enough to travel several feet in the time it takes for the human eye to reopen after blinking. It can literally move faster than the blink of an eye. It will advance towards its target until it is in range, then snaps its victim's neck. Object is reported to attack by snapping the neck at the base of the skull, or by strangulation. SCP-173 is apparently strong enough to snap the neck of a fully grown man almost instantly, although exactly how it does this is unknown. However, the creature is rendered completely immobile for as long as it's in an organism's sight. Therefore, personnel assigned to enter container are instructed to alert one another before blinking. Personnel report sounds of scraping stone originating from within the container when no one is present inside. However, this is considered normal. The reddish-brown substance on the floor is a combination of feces and blood, but so far, the source of these materials is still unknown. And due to the increasing amount of reddish-brown material, its enclosure must be cleaned on a bi-weekly basis. Being constructed of concrete and rebar, SCP-173 is incredibly durable, able to hold itself in a fight against SCP-682. SCP-682 is a massive reptilian beast with almost unlimited regenerative powers that is widely considered the most adaptive and durable SCP the Foundation contains. If you want to know more about SCP-682, you can click on this video in the upper right corner. Back to 173. So the Foundation personnel arranged a battle with 682 in order to test the durability of 173. And from that day on, it inspires great fear in 682. Because SCP-173 is an extremely dangerous object, hence is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter SCP-173's container, no fewer than 3 may enter at any time, and the door is to be relocked behind them. At all times, 2 persons must maintain direct eye contact with SCP-173 until all personnel have vacated and relocked the container. And now, probably the scariest thing is that 173 seems to have started its reproduction. Here's one of the recordings of personnel's in 173's containment. "What are you looking at?" John Avery, presently known as D-5933, shouted at the other D-Class personnel in the cell. "SCP-173, what are you looking at?" came the reply. This worried John, as he was staring intently at SCP-173, and the other D-Class personnel was standing behind John, facing the other direction. Then, John heard the worst sound any human being had ever heard, a sneeze, coming from 6 inches behind his head. For a second, John remembered an episode of Mythbusters he had seen before being arrested, before coming here, where they tested to see if someone could sneeze with his eyes open. And yep, he never saw the end. There was a sick, wet thud, a horrible ripping sound, and a scream that ended too quickly. John didn't even have a chance to turn around and look over. From SCP-173's Addendum 1, it was written that SCP-173 appeared to multiply, producing 2 identical copies. 2 D-Class personnel were killed. It is unknown how this process occurred. Each instance of SCP-173, now labeled SCP-173-1 and SCP-173-2, is to be moved to individual cells, each following original containment procedures. In Addendum 2, it was noted down that a second multiplication event occurred. SCP-173-1 through 4 are to be each contained as per original containment procedures. Objects reclassed as Keter. And in the Addendum 3, at least 61 copies of SCP-173 are as of now unaccounted for. It is unknown how they replicated so fast, or how they replicate at all. Video evidence of the containment breach shows multiple instances of SCP-173 working in unison across multiple cells to achieve the breach. Most of the instances still in captivity appear to have formed a rear guard, blocking Foundation agents from pursuing other instances. It is theorized that SCP-173 has a hive intelligence, where intelligence scales with number of nearby copies. SCP-173 has caused a breach of secrecy for the SCP Foundation. Estimates at this time are roughly 500,000 civilian deaths across North America in the last 48 hours due to SCP-173, and hundreds of thousands of sightings and pieces of video evidence. Major television news programs have obtained video of SCP-173 and are providing instructions for avoiding instant death. And following saturation nuclear bombing on number of SCP-173 instances has been reduced. They fired one bullet after another, but it didn't feel the slightest. They even used anti-tank weapons, causing part of the body, organs, and blood of 096 to be gone. But it was still able to move forward and destroy the entire team. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today, we bring you a SCP Foundation Euclid class object SCP-096. SCP-096 is a humanoid creature measuring approximately 2.38 meters in height. SCP-096 shows very little muscle mass, with a preliminary analysis of body mass suggesting mild malnutrition. Arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of the subject's body, with an approximate length of 1.5 meters each. It has no sign of any body hair, its skin is mostly devoid of pigmentation, and it probably doesn't have pupils either. Other facial features remain similar to an average human, with the exception of the eyes. SCP-096's jaw can open to 4 times the norm of an average human. It shows no signs of any higher brain functions and is not considered to be sapient. SCP-096 is normally extremely docile, with pressure sensors inside its cell indicating it spends most of the day pacing by the eastern wall, and it doesn't seem to need food. Based on its response, the researchers are determined that 096 is very shy. It tries to stay as far to humans as possible. However, when someone views SCP-096's face, we'll call this person SCP-0961. Whether it be directly, via video recording, or even a photograph, it will enter a stage of considerable emotional distress. SCP-096 will cover its face with its hands and begin screaming, crying, and babbling incoherently. Approximately 1 to 2 minutes after the viewing, SCP-096 will begin running towards SCP-0961. It moves at 35 kilometers an hour and seems to depend on distance from SCP-0961. If it is very far away, it will be able to run very fast. The actual position of SCP-0961 does not seem to affect SCP-096's response. It seems to have an innate sense of SCP-0961's location. Upon arriving at SCP-0961's location, SCP-096 will proceed to attack and kill SCP-0961. 100% of cases have left no traces of SCP-096. SCP-096 will then sit down for several minutes before regaining its composure and becoming docile once again. Then the Foundation staff will take it back to the SCP shelter. The most extreme case at present is that someone saw only a part of its picture and was also killed by it. At this point, no known material or method can impede SCP-096's progress. In one of the audio recordings, the former commander of the recovery team said, even if they were firing it intensely, but it didn't feel anything at all. They even used anti-tank weapons, causing part of the body, organs, and blood of 096 to be gone. But it was still able to move forward and destroy the entire team. Besides, because it does not cover its face when it's running towards its target, anyone who sees it will be killed by it along the way. Due to the possibility of a mass chain reaction, including breach of Foundation secrecy and large civilian loss of life, a doctor of the Foundation has also petitioned for immediate termination of SCP-096. The Foundation has carried out several execution experiments, one of which is to send the containment tank containing SCP-096 into SCP-682's cell. SCP-682 is a large, vaguely reptile-like creature of unknown origin. It has a powerful regeneration ability and adaptability, and also has the title of Immortal Body. If you want to know more about SCP-682, do click on this video. So back to the execution experiment. The screams of the two entities continue for 27 hours, at which point the noise abruptly stops. Sonar-based video feeds reveal SCP-096 severely wounded and huddled in the southwest corner, apparently upset. Feed shows SCP-682 on the north end of the room, approximately 85% of its initial mass absent. Further attempts to expose SCP-096 to SCP-682 cause it to turn away from 682, jumping in place while clawing at its face and screaming. Because 096 will only attack when people see its face, so the Foundation has long housed it in an airtight steel cube. There are to be absolutely no video surveillance or optical tools of any kind inside SCP-096's cell. Any and all photos, videos, or recordings of SCP-096's likeness are strictly forbidden. But it's said that an abstract painting or its cartoon image is not prohibited because it won't stimulate the emotional distress reaction of 096.